Things are germinating and growing. It has started. This plant combination of sunflower and sun hemp does not require a lot of moisture, but it requires heat. And so this is the beginning, and I would assume that this will now go very quickly. We saw this happening before, and with a little bit of moisture that we can bring here with irrigation, this should turn into a great crop. Of course, it's for biomass. It is to improve the soil ahead of planting palovnia trees. So far we have 4 sectors here, and it is working very nice. And as I said before, the intention is to irrigate mostly when it's cooler, because that saves on water, and the issue is of course to have the energy for doing so. And now that I have a reason to run the generator a little bit in the evening, I can also spare some watts for the irrigation. So that's what I'm trying to do. I have to balance between all kinds of things, and that is one way. But in general, we do not have grid power, so irrigating at night is not a general thing that we can do. But here and there, I can spare a few watts and still do it. Look who's here. This little fellow is sharing some food. And apparently they don't mind. I guess I will lock them now up together, because there will be no problem. And he might even be sleeping instead of eating. So let's say he found a shelter. This is definitely greening up. If I pan over, you can see that green shimmer there. And if I zoom in a little bit, this is the camera here on the phone. So you can definitely see that we do have sun hemp and friends growing with that irrigation in place. This is A11, that field, so we can call it now, is almost done. And then the second part will come. The second part is this over here, and here without irrigation things have also emerged. So there you can clearly see it. It's basically there where the trees are, but there's also something right there in the middle. This is the morning dew that falls from the leaves of the oak trees that makes this possible. But of course it needs water for the next coming months until the rain comes back. So the life expectancy for this is about 3-4 months. So we need to keep it around while it grows and makes roots. This is in preparation for the palovnia plantation that we want to have here. And there in the back, in the part that hasn't been plowed, there we will have a line basically between those trees there and here on the other side with these cypress trees that we have in our nursery waiting, and they should then provide a windbreak so that the palovnia trees here in early spring will not suffer because of a very cold wind that comes from over there. So that is the plan here, but things are working out well. A new view from the pond this morning. We are pumping in water from the outflow of the water reservoir, and so it appears that this goes up and down a little bit and therefore maintains somehow a balance. So I don't think that we will lose all that water by pumping it out for irrigation. This will stay filled well and not go dry until the rain comes back, so I believe. And as a little preview, you will see when we are doing this, it should be a few days away. This is where the line of cypresses is going to be. And I have just been thinking about what to plant left and right of those. We might just plant the cypresses for now and do other things later. But certainly there will be some Bermuda grass involved as a ground cover. That is needed anyway. And it will emerge naturally, but we can help it along a little bit. So when we disturb the ground by using the excavator, then certainly we can also seed the Bermuda grass, because now we have the tools for doing so. It is now 9 o'clock and I'm extremely pleased with the situation that we have here. So I'm standing in the tree, in the shade of these trees here. It is cool, but it is moist also. So it's not unpleasant. Of course, the grasses and all this have now turned brown. That's totally normal, but as you can see here, there are a few green spots. And I'm trying to envision how this area might look like in a little while with all the new plantings that will eventually show up here as well. So this is right below the place where the sunhip and friends there will soon show up. Well, they are showing up, but soon they will be tall. So in a couple of weeks, I will be standing next to an area right here that will be green all over. And this makes me pretty happy. So it's a very good feeling to be standing here. Of course, soon it will be very hot. Right now, it is maybe 20 centigrade. And soon we will be above 30 here. But that's how it goes. But with more plants, it will stay cooler. And it is a question, what else to establish? That is not just what you see, those grasses. Of course, those grasses are important when you do livestock stewardship or husbandry, how you want to call it. So when you have livestock around, then of course you need all these grasses. That is what Dehesa is about. It's an open forest made for keeping livestock. So the grasses are very important. But it's a man-made landscape. So this used to be a Mediterranean forest where there are grasses around, but they are not the most dominant species. There are all kinds of other species too. And they kind of disappeared. And the result is then a landscape dominated by these oak trees and grasses. This is our grey water pond. And you can see that the water level has gone down. But what you can also see is that the vetiver over there is now green and it is coming up on top. And I think that will be the case there as well. In the trench there is nothing else. But of course all around there's all the other things that are now brown. What you can't really see because it's right there in the shadow, well, you might, is that there the vetiver is also coming up on top. So let me show you the other area here. So here there is more vetiver along the shore, and it now definitely has lost the autumn colors and is now bright green as it's supposed to be. So now the temperature is right, and that is what it needs. So it is now beginning to really grow. And it does help to purify the water here. So that grey water pond is not that dirty. But then of course it is falling dry more and more. But that's okay, it's a grey water pond. So it is not supposed to be filled all the time. Of course that would be nice, but for that we need to move more water into it, and that is something that we rather use for other places instead of to keep this grey water pond filled. So this little guy here has spent the night with the hens. That worked out beautifully. And he probably likes the shade in here. Of course now my worries start, because without that fence these hens can now roam, and one of my worries is that they might go over there and then there will be a conflict. But I think these Araucana hens are a little bit smarter than the others that we had, and they will fly away when the dog is trying to chase them. At least that's my expectation. There isn't that much that I can do other than cage them or build fences to really make it impossible to go somewhere. Of course, in the farmyard there is now things that they might find attractive. Just a half an hour ago I observed a bunch of magpies foraging there in the green spot. That is the future dog enclosure. And the hens might have the same idea, because there's bugs to eat. And somehow the animals have to figure this out. And the smarter the hens are, the less the problem is. But then the dogs are just one type of predator. And system has to work. If you can't have a grazing animal, then cutting definitely makes this worthwhile, because you can see the difference. And of course the irrigation helps, but the cutting helps to get it denser and denser, and there is more biomass on the ground, and therefore the soil biology underneath can work. And one proof of that is all the birds that come here to feed. So they definitely do find something that we as humans can't see from the distance where we carry our head. But this definitely is working. So I'm basically making a lawn here. So now that I'm done with this, I turned on the irrigation here again. The sky looked like it might rain, and it looked here and there pretty dark, as you can see over there, but it rained a few kilometers away from here, some 80 kilometers or so, as I could see on the radar. So I have to make my own rain, and this is what we have now. So this is looking denser and denser, which is very good. And this is supposed to become the dog enclosure one day. And then of course I would like to have this all grassed, so that there is grass all over the place, and nice grass. And in our case it's a mix of Bermuda grass and some cold season grasses, so that there is no smell and dogs like to play there. In cases where we can't let them roam the farmyard. So usually they are going to be out here all over, but here and there is a reason to lock them away, and then this is the place. And I am also toying with this idea, once this stuff there has been removed, next week I would think, then we can build a shaken tractor and start to have a small thing here with a few broilers, so to say, so meat birds, and that way we can give this a try. Of course, once we have meat birds, there is the question of harvesting them, and I hope that these Araucana hens are not so eager to come in here. They can slip under that and fly over. Mr. Cat seems to be friendly with them, so there's no problem. He's not interested in them, at least not for food, so that makes me happy. But they are eyeing this place, and well, they're getting more and more adventurous the bigger they get. But I would also think that also makes them a bit smarter, and they're picking where there is a little bit moist, because that is where they change the drinking water. So I hope everybody will stay on their respective side. But this hen here is definitely trying to check this out here. Well, there's not much that I can do. Free range is free range, and that also means that hen has to look out for herself. And of course we have a leak here, but the dogs take advantage of this and get the fresh water from right here. They actually go there and lick the leak. It's quite funny. But there will be the moment when we get this fixed. The fix will actually be rerouting. So instead of having that line connected to here, we will connect this directly to the Rainbird controller and the solenoid valves there. And that means the line will come in from over there and then go that way. So it's independent of that line. And here we can probably put a hydrant. This has been earmarked for that for a long time. So now there are more. But as long as they are picking there and are not willing to come over, everything is fine. The dogs are tired anyway, so shouldn't be a problem.